And welcome. And welcome. Folks, this is Friday. It's Jihad on America. I'm your host, Tom O'Halloran. I'm broadcasting tonight from my underground bunker deep in Arkansas, Nebraska, and I'm here to educate, irritate, and agitate. If you're not agitated by the time this hour's over, the terrorists may well have already won. Again, my name's Tom O'Halloran. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm Sir_TPO himself. My primary blog is TomO'Halloran.com. When you get there, please be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, any other social media you can fancy. When you get there also, please follow my editor, Veronica Coffin. She's more than my editor. She's my producer, my life coach, my flight instructor. You'll find Veronica's follow button at the bottom of each and every post. Please find us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/Patriot Radio Show. And folks, I'm on air 3 nights a week, so please be sure to tune in same time on Monday and Wednesday to catch the Patriot Radio Show. On Friday nights, I do things a little differently. I do this show, Jihad on America, where I uncover the Islamists in America and tell you who they are, what they want, and why you should be afraid. If you did not catch my show, The Muslim Brotherhood, my show Islam is Not a Religion, or my show Islamophobia, please find your way to patriotradioshow.com and catch all 3 of these shows. They'll give you a solid understanding of the topic, an insight that you've probably not heard anywhere else. It'll also give you a solid foundation upon which we build each and every Friday night as we continue pulling back the mask of Islam, showing you what's being done in the name of Allah, both here and abroad. And yes, I do the news of Islam abroad, because it gives us a look into the future of what's in store for America if we continue to allow this cancer of Islam to spread here in the homeland. Keep abreast of my shows, listen to the live stream, as well as archives of any shows that you may have missed, all at patriotradioshow.com. I'd like to thank my sponsor for the night, the Republic of Texas. Please find their website at thetexasrepublic.com. We're an organization dedicated to regaining our international recognition as a nation. The Texas Republic has always been a standalone republic, and we will get that recognition back. Also, Dr. Krupa, a Katy, Texas chiropractor and nutritional health center. It's Dr. Krupa, KROUPA.com. Dr. Dave Krupa, a good friend of mine, a great chiropractor, and a superb nutritionist. Please check him out. We've got a great show for you tonight, folks. We've got a lot of new stuff to share with you, and we're going to kick it off the way we usually do by telling you what's been going on in the religion of peace in the last week. In the 7 days since we've talked, there have been 34 attacks, 34 Islamist attacks. In Iraq, Sunnis liquidate 8 Shiite pilgrims with a car bomb, another 16 severely wounded. Somalia, a Jihadi suicide bomber rammed straight into a crowded restaurant, sending at least 10 patrons to Allah. Another 15 seriously wounded. Back in Iraq, 15 people at a car dealership are reduced to pulp by a Sunni bomb blast. These are Muslims killing Muslims. They exist. Their meat and potatoes is killing non-believers. But if they don't have any infidels like you or me around, they'll kill each other off just as gladly. Obama is importing these scumbags at a rate that is unprecedented. We are importing more Muslims as, quote, refugees than all the other countries of the planet combined. Now, granted, they're not all terrorists, but if you import 100,000 Muslims and only 10% of them are terrorists, and the actual number is more like 20%. But if only 10% of them are terrorists, you have imported 10,000 terrorists. How many is too many terrorists to have in America? The list continues. Iraq. Islamic State executes 32 civilians, beheading the men and shooting the women and children. Yemen. 15 captured Yemenis are beheaded by the Islamic State. Mali. A suicide bomber takes out 3 civilians, another 16 severely wounded. In the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, a pregnant woman is among 19 victims murdered by ADF Nalu, 9 of whom were beheaded. Iraq again, 16 refinery workers were reportedly killed by a suicide bomber. More Muslims killing Muslims. This is the religion of peace. And my friends, if you still think it's a religion, then I beg you, go to patriotradioshow.com, listen to my show, Islam is not a religion, and then tell me what you think. Okay, up tonight, we got another school in America, Mason, Ohio, is trying to, quote, celebrate diversity by asking girls to wear a hijab to get a taste of Islamic culture. Why not put them in a burqa? Why not send your daughters to school day and let us stone them to show them what Islam is all about? Why don't we throw bleach in their eyes, throw acid in their eyes, to show what happens to Islamic women when they refuse a marriage proposal? Why not let the high school boys beat their girlfriends with a broomstick? Pretend you're an Islamic husband and beat one of your wives. Let's bring Islam to the schools, but let's teach them what Islam is really about. I'm sick and tired of this. Come and let's talk in peace and wonderful things about what a wonderful man Muhammad was. No, Muhammad was a goat-raping pedophile, and every Islam follower is told to emulate Muhammad. So they may not all be terrorists, but every Muslim is a follower of a goat-raping pedophile. And if we're going to teach Islam in the schools, then by God, let's teach what Islam really is. I stood in for a friend of mine, Doc Green, on Raging Elephants Radio the other day. And I had a guest on that is part of the Truth in Texas Textbooks Coalition. This organization is going through textbooks in the state of Texas. Texas is the second largest purchaser of textbooks. This being so, the textbooks are manufactured for Texas. And what we do with textbooks here dictates what other school districts around the country will get. They are taking the flowery, beautiful things about Islam out of the books and putting the truth about Islam into the books. We're putting an end to telling the students how wonderful Islam is and what a wonderful, peaceful person Muhammad is. It's time to teach the kids the truth about Islam. And if we're going to have exercises involving the kids in Islam, forget teaching them the 5 pillars. Forget teaching them to recite Muslim prayers in Arabic. Forget teaching them the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to Allah. Forget all of this. Start having the young men beat the girls with a broomstick. Put the girls in the schoolyard and let the boys stone them. Show them what Islam is really about. God bless the parents in the Mason Unified School District for speaking up and putting an end to this. This exercise was canceled before it got off the ground. It takes parents that are involved, parents that listen to their kids, parents that go to the parent-teachers meetings, that look at the teacher's syllabus. You have to know what's happening in your kids' schools, or your kids will be stolen from you. They will rape your children's minds, which believe it or not, can be as devastating and detrimental to them as raping their bodies. If you don't step in and get involved in your kids' schools, the Muslims will take over. They will teach them the wrong things. They have dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into school book publishers, into school districts, buying school board seats that will vote on what books to use. Saudi money has been dumped for decades. Since 1975, Saudi money has been dumped into the school book market. They have been buying our kids' education, buying the education of our very own kids. They've been building Muslim student union associations, student groups in our schools. There are more Muslim student organizations in our high schools and our junior high schools than there are Republican or Democrat clubs, because the schools are just taking all the money that is being waved at them, and the Saudis just keep pouring it in. And why not? If they can buy the education, they are buying our kids. And if they get our kids brainwashed into thinking Islam is a wonderful, peace-loving thing, then we have lost for sure. It's time to stop giving them our money. Patriots, listen to this. If you listen to anything else this week, this is going to be one of the most important things that you can absorb. The money that we spend to put gas in our car is going to Saudi Arabia. It's going to Middle East. It is going to the very people that are funding the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all of this. Stop buying gas from the Middle East. Shell Oil Company buys 205 million barrels a year from Middle East. Chevron, 144 million barrels. ExxonMobil, 130 million barrels. Marathon Speedway, 117 million barrels. Amoco, 62 million barrels. Take all of those numbers combined. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 700 million barrels at even $30, but it's going around, I believe it's $80 a barrel now. This is all going into the people that have stated that they want to kill you. They're already killing our kids over there, our brothers, our husbands, our wives and daughters. I beg you, start buying oil, start buying your gas from the following companies. None of these companies buy a barrel, not a single barrel of Middle Eastern oil. At the top of the list, Murphy. This is sold at Walmart's. And I know a lot of you hate Walmart. Set it aside. Drive in and buy their gas. Murphy gas is 100% American. I believe it all comes from Arizona, but it's Arkansas. But Murphy oil is all 100% American. Sunoco, 0 barrels from Middle East. Conoco, 0 barrels. Sinclair, 0. BP, British Petroleum, Phillips, 0 barrels. Hess, 0. Arco, 0. Also 0 oil is Pilot, Flying J, Love's, Racetrack, and Valero. Although I believe Valero is Venezuelan, and that's Hugo Chavez, another dictator that hates America, so forget them. But Murphy, Sunoco, Conoco, Sinclair, BP, Hess, Arco, these are the ones that you can fill your tank with and not have any guilt. Stop giving the Middle East the money they're using to buy our children's education. I've gone over this virtually every month since I've been on air, and I will continue to go over it. Michigan, Dearborn, Street signs have changed from English to Arabic. You're driving along and all of a sudden you cross a boundary and there is no more English. The street names themselves, the business names, everything is Arabic. There are bright yellow signs. Steve Tarani was riding around with Detroit Metro, the SWAT team. Drove around Detroit and into Dearborn. He sees the yellow signs and he says, "What are the yellow signs? They look different from the rest." He's told, "This is it. We can't go past this line." Detroit Metro Police has a line they can't go past. It is a Muslim no-go zone for non-Muslims. The police are afraid to go into this territory. Dearborn, Michigan. And it's not the only place. You can find similar zones in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And if you think these are the only two that are going to happen this way, think again. Go to patriotradioshow.com. Listen to my show. Islam is not a religion. As long as the population of the Muslim community is at or below 2%, they seem like nice folks. The neighbor across the street, your coworker, a cubicle or two over, friendly. They seem like Americans, just nice folks. But as their numbers grow in the community, they change. They start setting aside the mask of the nice person, and they become the real thing. As their numbers climb into 10 and 20 and 30%. In that show, I will walk you through exactly what kind of behaviors you can expect. And when it gets up around 60 and 70%, you will find no-go zones. And I tell you what countries have them at each stage of the way. It's an important show. Not because I did the show, but because it gives you facts that nobody else is sharing with you. PatriotRadioShow.com. The show is Islam is not a religion. We have no-go zones in America. You are no longer free to move about the country. You are no longer free to move about the country. Illegal aliens can freely come across our border from Central and South America, from China, from Japan, from Muslim countries. They can freely walk through our borders. But we cannot freely travel through our cities once they set up camp. And I promised you agitation, my friends. I hope you're feeling it. When they can freely come here, legally or not, and then take over territory and say that we can no longer freely travel, then we are losing. And there are areas in Oslo, there are areas in France. Marseille is largely Muslim. There are entire neighborhoods the police in France cannot go. The streets are completely blocked off for prayers. The UK has several no-go zones. This is happening elsewhere. Now, in the European area, they may not have known what to expect, because nobody had imported this many Muslims before. But as their cities became ghettos, as their cities began to rot, we have no excuse for allowing it to happen here. The only excuse we have is we have a president that is doing his best to make it happen here. And if this pisses you off, then I'm doing my job. Because the idea, the very idea of no-go zones in the United States of America where Americans that were born here, the Americans that fought for this country, Americans that have given their life, who have given their limbs for, the very idea they cannot freely travel about this country sickens me. We have veterans coming back missing legs. They go through treatment. We take care of them. They get prosthetics. They run marathons. To lose your legs and to be able to walk again, to be able to run again, but still not be able to go into certain areas because the very people that disabled your body, that killed your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, the very scumbags that are doing this to our sons overseas are telling us in our own country that we cannot cross this line. How can we let this happen? What is the matter with you in America that you allow this to happen in your cities, that you haven't called your city council, that you haven't called your congressman, that you haven't called the police and told them that a Muslim won't let you cross this street? We can't allow this cancer to spread. We can't allow our streets and our cities to turn the way they have in the European Union, in the UK, in Australia. I was at a Republic of Texas meeting in February, and the police from several counties and the Texas Attorney General's office, Texas Rangers, U.S. Marshals, the FBI came in. They had a search warrant. We were fingerprinted, photographed. They busted up our meeting. Why? Because they didn't like the idea that we were holding a common law court. My friends, the Constitution allows us to have a common law court. The Supreme Court of the United States has said that the people have a right to have a common law court. We were doing nothing wrong. But in Dallas early this year, Sharia courts were set up. Sharia courts where Muslims could go in and have their cases settled. Business arguments, property settlements, divorce settlements. Sharia law being practiced in America and in the state of Texas, of all places. Why didn't the police, the Texas Attorney General, the Texas Rangers, the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, why didn't they bust this group? This was unconstitutional. This was criminal. Sharia law has no place on U.S. soil. Sharia law is what allows men to beat their wives with sticks. It's what allows you to stone your daughter for sleeping with a man or kissing a boy. Sharia law is what allows gays to be killed, beheaded, just for their homosexuality. No fan of homosexuality here, but I'll not stand by and let one be killed either. Sharia law is being practiced in our courts. Several months ago, I read through a list of court cases around the country where Sharia law was considered by a judge. Under Sharia law, a woman has no rights. She is property. Under Sharia law, a woman charges that she was raped. She must have 4 witnesses. And even then, she can be charged with forcible adultery. You get raped, and you go to prison for forced adultery. Sharia law has no place on U.S. soil, and yet our courts have been allowing it. Thank God, in each of the cases that I found, when it got to an appellate court, the judge's decision was overturned. 31 states now have either laws on the books prohibiting Sharia law from being considered, or laws working their way through the state houses to prohibit Sharia law. This is America. If our Constitution, if our court system is not enough for you, goat-raping pedophiles, then take your asses back to the caves. Because we're not going to change our way for you. You may have won some enclaves in some cities. And I would guess that each one of these cities where you've gained this enclave, it's bleeding heart liberals. I know it was in Michigan. I'll have to look at Murfreesboro, Tennessee. But my guess is yes. Because it's the bleeding heart liberals that cave to every multi-culty fad around. Tell me something, you liberals. You're always standing up for the gays. The gay community, the LGBT community are your friends. How are you going to explain to those friends that your Muslim friends want to kill them? Oh, and don't think you're not going to have that conversation. Because Muslims are killing gays on a daily basis. Around the world, this is happening. Around the world, it's happening. Here's a case in Syria. Depraved militants surrounded two gay guys. They shouted at them for being homosexuals. They put blindfolds on them. Then they walked over to them and they hugged them as though they were being forgiven. They say they understand and it's okay. As the homosexuals, blindfolded, stood there, waiting for the blindfolds to come off, they were stoned to death, with fist-sized stones being thrown at them. And the bloodthirsty, goat-raping pedophiles that surrounded them stood there and watched. Those that did not throw stones stood there and took photographs with their smartphones. This is sport for them. Stoning people. This is their law. This is Sharia. This is what they want to bring to America. And if you don't want this in your town, then by God, get off your ass and do something about it. Stop sitting by while our cities are being taken over. While street signs are being put up in Arabic. While people are being beheaded in our own country. And don't think they aren't. We've covered stories over the past year where they are. Let's take a thumbnail look at Muslims. Obama said in his speech right after his election about the great contributions that Islam has given to America and to the world. The shoe bomber was a Muslim. The Beltway snipers were Muslims. The Fort Hood shooter was a Muslim. The underwear bomber. The USS Cole bombers. The Madrid train bombers. The Bali nightclub bombers. The London subway bombers. The Moscow theater bombers. The Boston Marathon bombers, the Pan Am Flight 93 bombers, the Air France Entebbe hijackers, the Iranian embassy takeover, the Beirut embassy bombers, the Libyan embassy attack, the Buenos Aires suicide bombers, the Israeli Olympic team attackers, the Kenyan embassy bombers, the Saudi Khobar tower bombers, the Beirut main barracks bombers, the Bezian Russian school attackers, the First World Trade Center bombers, the Bombay and Mumbai, India attackers, the Achille Lauro cruise ship attackers, the September 11th attackers. They were all Muslims. Can you not see the trend here? And again, they're not all terrorists. But even if it's only 10 or 15 or 20%, that's tens of thousands of terrorists lying in wait already here in America. And Obama is agreeing to bring 100,000 a year across. Obama's agreed to bring on more Muslim refugees than all other countries combined. But think about it. Buddhists live with Hindus, no problem. Hindus live with Christians, no problem. Hindus live with Jews, no problem. Christians live with Shintos. Shintos live with Confucians. Confucians live with Baha'is. Baha'is live with Jews. Jews live with atheists. Atheists live with Buddhists. Buddhists live with Sheiks. Sheiks live with Hindus. Christians live with Jews. Buddhists live with Shintos. Shintos live with atheists. All with no problem. But Muslims live with Hindus. There's a problem. They get killed. Muslims live with Buddhists. The Buddhists get killed. Muslims live with Christians. They kill the Christians. Muslims live with the Jews. They kill the Jews. They live with Sikhs. They kill the Sikhs. They live with the Shintos. They kill the Shintos. They live with atheists. They kill the atheists. They kill anybody that's not Muslim. What is not to get? Obama tries to make it sound like every time there's one of these attacks, it's not Islam. Oh, ISIS isn't Muslim. It's not Islam. Yes, it is. They're doing exactly what the Quran tells them to do. They're killing infidels. They're killing everybody that's not a Muslim. They're not happy in Gaza. They're not happy in Egypt. They're not happy in Libya. They're not happy in Morocco or Iran or Iraq or Yemen or Afghanistan or Pakistan. They're not happy in Syria or Lebanon or Nigeria or Kenya or the Sudan. Where are they happy? Where do they want to go? They want to go to Australia and Belgium, France, Italy. They're happy in Germany, Sweden, the US, Canada, Norway, India. They're happy in almost every place that is not Islamic. Can you not see this? They want to go everywhere that's not Islamic. And why? Why? It's not Islam because there was no Islam here. It's not their leadership. It's not themselves. They're happy here because they're allowed to bring their ways here. To bring everything about the countries that they hate, they want to bring it here. They want to change the countries that they love to move to be like the countries they moved from. The ones that are all bombed out, all shot up. In my opening, I told you about all the places where they killed the Muslims. They're coming to these other countries and they're killing the Australians, the English, the people that live there. When they get done, they'll start killing each other. Islamic Jihad. It's ISIS. It's Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Hamas, Hezbollah, Boko Haram, Al-Nusra, Abu Sayyaf, Al-Badr, the Muslim Brotherhood, Lashkar al-Taiba, the Palestine Liberation Front, Ansura, Jama'a Islamiyah, Abdullah Azam Brigades. It's all Islamic terror, and they're exporting it to every country that will allow it. Obama's all but begging them to bring it. But what do they bring? What do they bring? Have you ever seen a Muslim hospital? Have you ever listened to a Muslim orchestra? Have you ever watched a Muslim band in a parade? Have you witnessed a Muslim charity? Have you ever shaken hands with a Muslim Girl Scout? Or seen a Muslim candy striper? The answer is no. So what was Obama talking about? That Islam has always been a part of America's history. Their only part of the American history is the World Trade Center. It's Fort Hood. It's the first World Trade Center. It's the people they kill here. They have no history here. They have no business here. They've given nothing to this country. They've given nothing to any country they've ever moved to. They've been here from the beginning. But they didn't fight in the Civil War to help free the slaves. They were one of the largest, and still are one of the largest traffickers of slaves in the world. They do it today. There are hundreds of thousands of slaves being traded by these people. They didn't do anything during the Civil Rights Movement. There are no pictures or media accounts of Muslims walking with Martin Luther King. Do you recall any Muslim brigades in World War II? No, the Muslims were aligned with Adolf Hitler. The Muslim Grand Mufti himself met with Adolf Hitler, reviewed the troops, taught Adolf Hitler a lot about taking control and building mobs. We've got to stop importing this. It's stupid. It would be like you placing an ad in the newspaper looking for roommates to live with my wife, my sons, my daughters, and me. If you just got out of prison for being an axe murderer, please give us a call. We have a lot of room. We're allowing people to move into our country that we know want to kill us. Not we know because they're Muslims. That would be racist. We know because they tell us they want to kill us. They have told us time and time and time again. And Obama says, that's okay, we'll take more. He tells the UN, we'll take as many Syrians as you need place for. They have completely taken over the U.S. refugee program. Virtually every refugee we're bringing into America is Muslim. Here's an ISIS militant from San Diego, a 24-year-old. Stupid enough to post pictures of himself with an AK-47, posting them on Facebook, bragging about his connections with ISIS. Bragging that he had connections with ISIS. That he had volunteered at a Sharia court. FBI watches Facebook. This guy will probably not see the light of day for a very, very long time. Muslim students rushing the stage again, forcing the cancellation of a university showing of American Sniper, a great, fabulous American hero. University of Michigan earlier this month canceled a showing of the movie, only to reverse themselves later after an outcry from the students. Outcry that was led by their new football coach, Jim Harbaugh. My hat's off to you students for speaking up. But last weekend, another Michigan college, Eastern Michigan University, planned 2 showings of American Sniper. But during the first showing, 4 protesters, Muslim scumbags, the followers of a goat-raping pedophile named Mohammed, they climbed on the stage and started chanting anti-American slogans. Here's a tip for you. If you hate America, go back to your caves. Go back to where you don't have the right to stand up and speak at all. I'd love to see you stand up and speak out against the leadership in Iran. Oh, I would pay to see that. The students were eventually arrested. The movie was finished. But the 10 o'clock showing was canceled. The surrender monkeys at the university folded up, supposedly for student security. Right. They came into violent intimidation. The Islamo-fascist ideology. That's how they get their way. They threaten violence if you don't do what they say. That is fascist. That is what the Nazis do. Fascist mindset is what the Muslims do. If you don't do what we tell you to do, we'll burn your store down. You have to stop selling pork or we'll burn your restaurant down. That's how they get their way. This is what you want to bring to America? We have freedom of speech. We don't have freedom of threat. These people were accusing the film itself of being propaganda instead of their own Islamo-fascist process. My friends, when you see Muslims shutting down freedom, when you see them shutting down patriotism, when you see them shutting down people from being proud Americans standing up for America, yell louder than they do. Get the media involved. Italy this week arrested terrorist suspects. 100 people. Oh, my mistake. Islamist extremists suspected a bomb attack in Pakistan that had killed over 100 people. The same people had moved to Italy and were suspected of putting together an attack that Italian authorities believe was directed at the Vatican. They had left words online that said a big jihad in Italy and suggested that it might be at the Vatican. Back in this country, a column this week from Robert Spencer, one of the great patriots, one of the great anti-Islam soldiers. He's an author. If you haven't seen his information, you've got to look him up online. He's phenomenal. Robert Spencer says the FBI is whitewashing the Saudi connection to 9/11. There was a well-connected Saudi family in Sarasota, Florida. And just a couple of weeks before 9/11 happened, this family bailed. Mind you, this was before 9/11. They bailed. They left their home that had about 3,500 square feet. They left their jewelry, their furniture, opulent furniture, a driveway full of cars. The only thing they didn't leave behind was a forwarding address. They just disappeared. They didn't notify their realtors, their neighbors, or anybody. The home was left empty. The home belonged to Essam Ghazawi, a Saudi advisor to the nephew of then King Fahd. At the time, the house was occupied by his daughter and son-in-law, who beat a hasty retreat back to Saudi Arabia just 2 weeks before 9/11. Now, they'd been in this house for 6 years. Neighbors took note of the troubling disappearance. They disappeared, and 2 weeks later, the airplanes that took out 9/11. They figured it wasn't a coincidence, and they reported it. Investigation just showed up that at least one family member had trained at the same flight school as some of the 9/11 hijackers in nearby Venice, Florida. The investigation into the prominent Saudi family found ties to the 9/11 hijackers. The investigation started on September 19th and remained active for several years. It was led by the FBI's Tampa field office, but it also included Bureau's field offices in New York and Washington. Agents identified persons of interest in the case, establishing their ties to other terrorists, to sympathies with Osama bin Laden, and anti-American remarks. They looked into bank accounts, colleges, and places of employment. They tracked at least one suspect's re-entry into the U.S. The Saudi 9/11 connection in Florida was no small part of the overall 9/11 investigation. Yet it was never shared with Congress, nor the media, nor was it mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report. Now it's being whitewashed again in a newly released report by the 9/11 Review Commission set up last year by Congress to assess any new evidence now known to the FBI that was not considered by the 9/11 Commission. Though the FBI acknowledges the Saudi family was investigated, it maintains that the probe was a dead end. The review panel highlighted one local FBI report generated from the investigation. The report had said that Abdul Aziz and Anod al-Haji, the prominent Saudi couple who fled their home, had many connections to individuals associated with the terrorist attacks. The couple had many connections to individuals associated with the attacks. But the FBI said that the communication was poorly written and wholly unsubstantiated. The panel noted that the 128-page report, when questioned later by others in the FBI, the special agent who wrote the report was unable to provide any basis for the contents of the document or explain why he wrote it as he did. How strange. Yet the panelists did not interview the unidentified agent for themselves. They just accepted headquarters' impeachment of his work. Odder still is the agent's report was just one of many other FBI communications dealing with ties between the Saudi family and the hijackers. In fact, the same Tampa office of the FBI was ordered to turn over more than 80,000 pages of documents, filling 27 boxes from its 9/11 investigation. These boxes were turned over to a federal judge hearing a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, case by local journalists over the Sarasota angle. The judge is sorting out the information that can be released. A lot of the information is marked secret, no foreign, meaning no foreign nationals can be granted access to this, indicating that it's highly sensitive. The report provides no plausible explanation for the contradiction between the FBI's current claim that it found nothing and its 2002 memo finding many connections. How do you go from many connections to nothing? I mean, from there may be connections to nothing, that's possible. But from many connections to those associated with the terror, to no connections. Something stinks here, my friends. And it smells like Obama's FBI is whitewashing the report. Now remember, Obama has 7 members of the Muslim Brotherhood in his administration advising what should go into reports like this. Advising the FBI they cannot even mention Islamic terror. They can't even train their agents about Islamic terror because Obama's Muslim Brotherhood advisors says they can't. So Obama is letting the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a terrorist group, known internationally as a terrorist organization. Obama is letting a terrorist organization guide his people on putting together a report on terrorist organizations. Folks, I don't see what could possibly go wrong here. What could possibly go wrong with this? How could the report be anything but factual? Obama is clearly allowing the fox to guard the hen house. Folks, before I leave for the evening, I want to go over the gasoline list again. Get your pencils, please. I'm going to give you the list of gasoline stations and beg you to write this list down and to make a commitment to buy gasoline only from these stations. You'd be surprised how hard it can hurt an oil company to lose customers. Please write this list down. Share this list on Twitter. Share this list on Facebook. Share this list in email. Get it out there. These are the companies that buy foreign oil. Share this too so people understand. Shell, 205 million barrels. Chevron, Texaco, 144 million barrels. Exxon Mobil, 130 million barrels. Marathon Speedway, 117 million barrels. Amoco, 62 million barrels. That's all millions of barrels of gas going to the Middle East. Now, I made a mistake earlier. I said that it was Valero. It's not Valero. Citgo comes from Venezuela. A dictator, Hugo Chavez, or his replacement now, I guess. He is a dictator who hates America. Do not buy Citgo gas either. The following companies buy zero Venezuelan or Middle Eastern gas. Please buy your gas from Murphy Oil. It's at Walmart. It is 100% American. All the jobs are American. They put their money into into charities in America. Murphy Gas. Shop at Walmart or don't. Buy your gas from Murphy. But also good companies that buy no Middle Eastern gas. Sunoco, Conoco, Sinclair, BP, that's British Petroleum, /Phillips, Hess, Arco, Pilot, Flying J, Love's, Racetrack, and Valero. Again, I'll say Valero because I said earlier that that was Hugo Chavez's gas. Commit to do this, please. These scumbags are not only arming the terrorists that are killing our families, but they're also buying our schools. They're buying our universities, giving $100 million to our universities to build Middle Eastern studies. This isn't Middle Eastern studies. This is indoctrinate your children on Islam. Indoctrinate them with lies. Stop funding this crap. That's it for this week, folks. Next week, please tune in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on Patriot Radio Show. Also, join me next week, Wednesday morning. I will be once again standing in for my good friend, Doc Green. Go to RagingElephantRadio.com. Listen to my show live from 10 a.m. to noon, Wednesday morning, on Raging Elephants Radio. Good night, America. God bless you and yours. This is Tom O'Halloran. I'm out.